does hate you.
I
We've
remember your
actually
name
went
specifically on our blacklist.
there's a whiteboard at Riot, and your name on it.
It was right underneath Tyler 1.
Damn. Man, really in there. All right, sweet.
All right, I think we're live, so we should be
Okay,
good.
then let me go ahead and host you.
Awesome. Blake, you still need to go to Zencaster, by the
Oh.
I
way.
don't think it'll be.
Shit and balls. Okay, let me go to Zencaster. Where did you guys link that at?
The Skype.
So is this? Do we interact with the chat? Do we not interact with the chat?
Yeah, you can interact with the chat. Absolutely.
I mean, I see Zeke. Oh yeah, I see what you mean. I just get one. I don't get a first name.
Yeah, you don't get a first name.
It's okay. Oh. Now we were all in each other's boxes there for a little bit.
I know. I'm moving stuff around. I had to.
No, that was
click
good. I liked it. I miss being in the box with you now.
Yeah, I know. It was fun while it lasted.
Yeah.
Got my
It's all about
filter.
unity in this podcast.
Is that what it's about?
Yeah.
Shit. How many episodes am I in just to figure that out now?
Shout outs to Lance. Shout outs to all my people out there. I don't know how many of them are or will be present, but definitely much love to all of them. So do I have to press a button on my Zencaster thing here?
No,
I will just press
it'll
record.
start already whenever, and then it'll automatically upload everything when we're done.
Amazing.
Even if you disconnect or anything, it's pretty cool.
All right, sweet. That's what I love.
Blake, the boxes are a little off still. I don't know if you're fixing that.
My
in the
what
middle of
one
it or
now?
The boxes, the webcams, and all that stuff.
Okay, hang on. Fixing it.
I like it.
Everyone in Twitch chat, this is a pre-show where we frantically figure out our technical difficulties.
Well, like,
yeah. Oh, they're used to that. Don't worry. They're good.
He's like,
There are no expectations. I'm sure.
That's exactly how we roll. That's so funny.
all right, Sam, are you thrilled now? We good?
We got Brandon. We got David. We got a whole goon squad.
Everything.
Hey,
In
it's
the
all about the
borders.
Goon Squad.
We all in the borders?
Manny's not in the borders.
It's
Did you not pass kindergarten,
What are you
Blake?
talking about? Manny's totally in the borders. He's got like black shit on the floor. It just looks like the border's not there for him.
What?
No, there's a black line. Do you
I
not
don't
see
know.
this?
What are you
No.
talking about?
I
What?
think it just fixed itself.
Are you
I don't
talking
know.
about that? It looks good to me. Everything looks great. I moved him around a little bit.
You should probably move the tags a little
Whatever
bit
that
around
black
too.
shit is on the wall, is what I'm telling you. He's got like something going on, like right up there in the bottom left corner. I don't know what that is, but that's
What, me?
That's my
Who?
backpack.
no,
that's me.
Manny. You're great.
That's
All
my
right.
backpack.
Thank you.
You're great. Just
That's
don't
what I
don't
told him.
move at all, and you're great.
Well, oops. I've already did it.
And you should probably move the tags too. I
What?
think Manny's is a little encroaching on.
No,
Yeah.
I'm a single entity. I am one with the LOLA podcast now.
Nitpickers.
Is this really nitpicky when like texts is overlapping each other, Blake?
Yes, it's nitpicky.
Well, so
all right, we're
I
good.
also I'm not myself a podcaster. I appear on a number of podcasts, but my knowledge is that podcasts are mostly listened to, and so
That's true.
it might not exactly matter where we're at.
Man has a good point,
That is
Sam.
true. That is very true. Unfortunately, most of the League of Legends audience is also on YouTube, and Twitch.
Yeah, I mean, we
Versus,
don't. No, I don't mean to sound like a smartass. I just meant, if we're
No.
off by a little bit, I don't know that.
Do
I'm making
sound
sure
like-
that Blake's ego's in
Okay,
check.
so
Don't worry
first
about
off,
that, Scarizard.
do sound like a smartass. I love it, and it's like the lifeblood of the podcast is we're all smartasses to each other. So perfect. Go with it. Live your instincts, brother. You'll be fine.
It's literally the only thing I know how to do. So this is great. You're really not pushing me out of my comfort zone at all. So this is
Yeah.
awesome.
Perfect. All right, we ready to go, guys?
Yeah.
Aye.
Cool. I think stream
All
looks
right.
great.
So I just started up the recording, so I'll just count us down, and we'll do this. Thanks everyone that's in Twitch chat already, and hopefully we all have a good time. And Scarizard, feel free to cut off anyone, especially Blake. Don't feel any
Damn.
pressure.
I feel like maybe you guys have a lot of stuff you need to talk about together. People were really trying to pit me against you, Blake.
Yeah,
That's
I
why-
know, right? And
I've never met you before in my life, but they're already trying to.
I feel as though I've been the most welcoming person here so far. I knew your first name. Sam left that shit off there.
You did know things that like a basic casual like approach to any of my social pages and or Google would have told you.
My homework.
It is actually pretty special, I gotta say.
Yeah, I actually watched your stream.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to Dark Souls 3. I actually downloaded it so I would be able to talk to you about it. But unfortunately, I only got to the opening cinematic. So this game looks like it's going to be really good.
Yeah. It's a little bit harder than the opening cinematic.
Yeah, the opening cinematic was really easy. I didn't have to do shit except get my controller set up, which was a bit of a pain in the ass. But
yeah, that's one of the earliest bosses.
I wish you could actually die in the opening cinematic for that game. That'd actually make the game 10 times better.
There's got to be a game that will let you do that at some point. All right, so how do we? Yeah, should I stop? Should you begin? How do we do this?
Okay, give me 1 second on your countdown. I'm gonna go grab something to drink.
Okay.
All right, Captain.
Then we do this.
It's all about the rotation of getting drinks. I have a mini fridge next to me, so I don't have to do that.
I actually don't require liquid of any form to survive. so I've really kind of the rotation ends with me.
That's pretty solid. Yeah.
It turns out Patrick is a cactar. We didn't know that.
Yeah, I store it within me. Shout out to I'm looking at a couple of people that are hanging out in the chat. I see Chanel, I see Vince, I see Lahance, I see Fagwent, Jinxed, David, Chain, Brandon. I think I named everyone. Oh, Zeeg, of course. And then a whole bunch of people that I don't know. But hello to all of you.
Yeah. Yes. Hello, everyone.
He is so much better at this than us. It's kind of distressing.
Well, he's also been doing it. Well, you guys have been doing it for a while, but I was going to say he's been doing it full time.
Hey, Rukug. I recognize that guy.
You're gonna always mispronounce his name too. It's great.
Hey, Meep's in here. What's up, Meep?
Meeps is in here. Yeah, see, we've already learned so much from Scarizard.
Yeah, that's our two guys. We got this.
All right, should we get this started? Sorry about that delay.
Yeah. Let's do this thing.
All right, I'll give us a countdown, do an intro, and then what I usually do, I'll intro everyone else, and then of course our special guest will be last, and then we'll just jump into things. Cool.
I see. Yeah, there we go.
All right, 3, 2. Hey guys, welcome to episode 174 of the League of Legends Anonymous podcast. I'm your host Sam, aka Just Casual. Here I have with me Blake, aka Wise Papa Smurf.
What's going on, Sam?
We got Manny, aka Manster415.
What's up, Sam?
Yo, and special guest Patrick. I do know his first name.
There
AKA,
you
go. Scarizard.
Do you know the last one?
Last name?
Yeah.
Scarborough something.
Uh-oh.
Scarborough?
Somebody didn't Google.
It's Scarborough.
My name is Patrick Scarborough, also known as Scarizard. I'm glad. I believe it was Manny who brought the energy down there for a little bit. I was feeling bad. Well, no, I was feeling really bad. I don't really have like a "What's up, gamers?" I don't really have a. I don't have like a YouTube voice, and so it's
really. You've actually just pinpointed what Manny's role is on the podcast. Just bringing down the energy level, all the time.
You can't have smooth sailing. Someone's got to be a bump in the road.
Yeah,
right. Someone's got to make sure that things fuck up just enough.
Yeah, we have the Eeyore of the podcast here.
So I got to ask, and I apologize because there's some notes in here. And, I don't want to hijack your show. Is this truly, explain to me, is it really League of Legends Anonymous if all of you are, outed, available?
Okay, so interesting thing. You're thinking League of Legends Anonymous like nobody knows who we are. We're wearing Guy Fawkes masks or whatever. But no, it's League of Legends Anonymous like I have a drinking problem. I play League for 4 seasons. And I'm here to talk about it with my friends in a judgment-free environment.
So then, so then moving on, do you know of any sort of groups like this, any sort of like self-help groups that have had onto a program people that formerly worked for them? This feels like having someone who worked for Jack Daniels on like an Alcoholics Anonymous segment, right? Like, is this? I don't know where we are ethically, is what I'm saying. This feels like we're in new territory, and I hope I'm not overstepping any bounds.
I feel like this is an amazing territory.
As an attorney, I do my best to try hard not to think about ethics as much as possible.
I see.
True story.
But if it does make
so that's
anybody
specifically-
feel better, I do work with drug addicts to get them their kids back. So that's kind of one of my things.
That's an awesome thing to do. I just mean, like, are the people who have been attracted into your audience, like, are we being rude to them by having me on?
No,
hey,
total.
Everyone who plays the game as a means of coping with some serious issues that you've got going on. Here's someone who maybe caused them.
Yeah, no. This is a total bait and switch. You see, we get them in thinking that they may receive help or a 12-step program, and in fact, instead, we just try to improve their elo.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe they're just more okay with themselves at the end?
All right.
We're basically like Alcoholics Anonymous, but we meet at a bar. You know?
Yes, that's great.
I gotta say, that does not sound effective. That seems
Depends on what the goal is, right?
We got focus groups working on it. As what a better location may be.
I mean, look, you've been doing 100 billion episodes of this shit. Don't let me stop your name now. I think it's something to just be aware of in the future. Yeah. People are gonna write in. Maybe it's irresponsible for me to be a part of this.
We are now rebranding after episode 174, based off what Scarizard has said. There you go. All right, so Scarizard.
What's up?
Not everyone, unfortunately, somehow, I don't know how people have been living under a rock, but people don't know.
Don't give me this. Y'all fuckers didn't even know my name, so let's.
Oh, well, don't.
Go to the question.
Sam didn't know your name. I was totally on board on that shit.
All right, here we go. Scarizard. Don't even start with me, man. I was there listening to your League Community podcast since episode 1.
No. This is good. No, hit me. What's up? How can I help?
I was also speaking the patch notes and stuff like that, but that's about as far as it goes.
Yeah, by the way, I will tell you this. Whenever I announced to some of my friends, I was like, hey, guys, we got Scarizard coming on the podcast. Like, I want to talk to him about stuff. Like, what do you want to know? And one of the answers I got back in Discord, like, I didn't answer the thing, but he said, I saw your thing on Twitter. Right. He goes, are you interviewing Stellan Skarsgård? And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah.
That's a new one.
He's like the Swedish actor, the guy from Good Will Hunting, the professor.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I know exactly who Stellan Skarsgård.
I was like, yeah, because he's totally huge in the league scene. Most people don't know that.
To be fair, if Stellan Skarsgård was a closet League of Legends player, I think you would be a fool to turn him down.
No, I would interview the shit out of that man.
Yeah. No, I understand.
Talk about League, the Tesseract. Whatever. By the way, he played the scientist in the Avengers that got brain fucked by the Tesseract.
Brain fucked.
Yeah, everyone remembers. Yeah, he was actually my favorite Avenger growing up as a kid. I'm really glad that they gave him the spotlight he deserved in the movie.
Oh,
it's fantastic.
So anyway, Scarizard, let our listeners know how you got to where you are right now.
Oh God,
quick journey.
You gotta cut that question down. There's gotta be a different way you can ask that. That's
all right. We'll start with this. You are a former Riot employee. Mm-hmm. You were involved with writing the patch notes. You were part of the podcast that they did there. You were part of the balance team too, right?
Yeah. Right. I did a whole bunch of shit while I was there. Yeah.
All right. So how did you get into Riot, and how was your time at Riot?
How I got into it. Let's see. So I was playing League of Legends solo queue for like a lot of my life. I was couch surfing up in Washington State. There's not a place that I lived. I kind of on a whim decided to go up there. And I was just playing League of Legends with a bunch of randos that I met. There's no way to tell this part of the story without it sounding ridiculous. So I'm just going to go right past it. And just get to the part that's important, which is that I was living with a bunch of friends. I was playing League of Legends all day. And one thing that happened, I read a whole ton of Riot posts. I knew everyone who worked there just from how they interacted with the forums. And, I kind of hit a point where, before things would get nerfed, I was pretty accurate at knowing what was going to happen. People were like, "Oh, Vladimir's OP," and I was like, "Oh, they're just going to take down, crank up the health costs on the E." And they're like, "No, they're not." And, people on the internet are like arguing with me, and then I was right a bunch of times. And then people were like, should you do that as a job? Is that a thing you should consider? And I was like, I don't know, man. I dropped out of college like a million times. I dropped out of more colleges than most people go to. So that's kind of my educational background. And then funny enough, I met my current partner, who I'm in their apartment. That's where I am right now. In a game of League of Legends solo queue. We added each other after the game and talked. We didn't start dating then. We didn't start dating until like 2016. So it's way later. But this is 2011, and we just got to talking because we had a really good game, my duo and their duo. And they were like, "Hey, I just turned down an internship at Riot Games for design. I'm gonna go do Intel stuff." But I know Tom Cadwell, who's the design director of Zilius, and I was like, "Whoa, I'm interested in doing design." They were like, "Oh, well, just let me. I'll send you. I'll send him your stuff." And so they forwarded my information to Tom, and Tom gave me an interview, and then he said the interview was god awful. But he was like, "Oh, I'll send you like a design test," and then I kicked the shit out of that, and then one thing led to another, and then I worked at Riot Games. I did have to lie about dropping out of high school, though. They totally thought I had a high school degree for quite a long time. But then I figured at the point at which they would find out, it's not like that. It's not like they were gonna like pull rank and be like, "Well, that's unacceptable."
Mm-hmm.
So, did they ever really find out? Like, who looks? Into that?
I told them. I was straight up like, "You were bamboozled. This was a joke." Well, I also think it was
an inside job.
I think after a while, people quickly figured out that I had not graduated from high school.
Like,
I think it's difficult to hold a conversation with me for any length of time without it sort of revealing itself.
They're like, "Hey, we looked at Scarizard's file here, and his diploma is written on a Post-it note."
Oh yeah, yeah. There were. I mean,
I seem authentic.
I grew up in Alabama and went to the Alabama school system, so it's not too inaccurate to say that they were handed out on Post-it notes. That is, it's not incredibly strong.
Actually, most Alabama ones are, but it missed the tobacco spit in the corner. That is the authentication part of the document.
That's like the seal.
Yeah, it's the seal. I'm from Missouri, so we have a very similar system. I'm familiar.
Yeah, I know. It's like our systems are both related, but then they're also in a relationship together.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
That's how you do it in the South. No, so I got hired as a game designer, and it was there for about 5 years. I mean, it's kind of hard to talk about the experience in summation, right? It did great at all the things that you would expect it did. It wasn't great at all the things you would expect it wasn't. I got to do a whole bunch of awesome jobs. I met a whole lot of awesome people, and I got to make a lot of cool stuff for players.
Well, okay, let me ask you a more precise question that I'm kind of interested in.
Hit me.
I see, follow people on Riot on social media because that's where you get a lot of good information about where the game's going, people's opinions and directions and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
And because, people loosely talk on social media. It's actually one of the things I kind of like about Riot, where most companies are more like PR stamped. Which can be good and bad because it'll cause you trouble if you're in PR, I suppose. But regardless, it seems positions at Riot are just super fluid. Like, you just kind of do something one day, and then the next day you may do something else. And it's like, it doesn't seem to be like a whole lot. Like you said yourself, you had 5 different jobs at Riot. How does that actually work in a corporate structure? Is it really that fluid, or does it just kind of appear that way from the outside?
I think, again, I just disclaimer for anyone who's listening, I haven't been there for a year, almost exactly. I left in early February, so we're coming up on it. But, I think it's... on one hand, I think, in the early days of Riot, and I was kind of joining still at the time when there were early days, because the company grew really fast. I was somewhere around employee number 600, and then at the time that I left, there was thousands. So, it really kind of ballooned out of size. But, I think in the early days there was this sort of idea that it was kind of looked down upon to ever have something and say like, oh, that's not my job. Like you don't want to. And I've come to realize that this practice is has some sort of problems with it, but also I think at the point where the company was, it's a very valuable thing to do, right? You certainly. When everything's growing and, when the esports team is being rehauled to, what then would go on to create the LCS and, and when we're trying to decide, what are seasons, right? Like seasons didn't exist. They were very much like kind of up in the air, like preseason was not a concept, but now is a thing that is very well defined, right? Like when you kind of are in that state, it is not uncommon, both at Riot, but also a lot of other game companies, to assume a stance where you're like, hey, I'm the producer for this team, but then also I'm like a people manager, but then also I implement a bunch of stuff, and then also I do bug fixing. And, on art side to be like, hey, I do concepts, but I also do splash art, right? And things like that. So you kind of have a very all hands on deck kind of feeling, which means on one hand, you get a lot of validation. You get to be like, whoa, I get to touch a lot of different teams. I get to touch a lot of different products. It feels really cool. But, kind of on a downside, just to name one of each, you end up in a situation where it's like, hey, how do I progress in my job? How do I become a senior Swiss Army knife, right?
Like a senior jack of all trades, right?
Yeah. Like it's not exactly something that you do. Especially as the company grows, you start hiring people who are much more specialized. And I think this is just something that happens in all game companies, not just Riot, but Riot certainly had their fair share of that.
Cool.
Okay. So there you go.
So you said, like, mostly in all of your kind of statements that you've made since you've left Riot, that the reason that you left was primarily due to burnout.
Yeah.
Right? And so, like, that's a pretty generic word to say, like, oh yeah, I'm just burned out, right? What specifically caused that? Was it just doing the same thing over and over again, or was it like a lack of clear direction, or what do you think?
I mean, have you ever experienced burnout?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. I think. I don't know. I think this is a pretty common thing that a lot of people have. I think there was a lot of people who were like, "Whoa, how could you dare leave Riot Games?" And I'm like that. Out of the responses that people had, anyone who was like, "I can't believe you would leave that job," I'm like, that's the person who's never had a job.
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
There's one.
Yeah, for sure. That is not my. I'll give you an
time.
example of what I mean, because I kind of asked a very.
No, I don't think
question.
you mean it in that sense, but yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So I used to work at a law firm where we did like primarily DUIs all the time, and I really enjoyed the actual work of it. Like I was very good at analyzing DUI law and things like that. But my boss was Satan. I'm fairly sure. I mean, dude literally could have been Satan. Like one of those, I came to Earth and started a law firm to cause misery and discontent, right?
And it is what he would do.
Yeah. I mean, it's a pretty good plan. So, I got burnt out working for that guy because literally every time I would show up to work, I'm like, God, this guy just makes my fucking day miserable. Like I would enjoy this job otherwise, but for the presence of that asshole, right? And I mean that, and then in combination with like you get some like straight up alcoholic clients that are like, well, got my 8th DUI, work magic, and I'm like, stop drinking, asshole. You're dangerous. You're gonna fucking kill somebody. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And that plus my boss was the devil kind of got me burnt out on that particular. Well, firm. I mean, I left, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I understand exactly what you're talking about, and I did. There were a lot of things I really liked about the job, but the environment was toxic. So that was kind of my breaking point, right?
Yeah.
And that's more of what I'm asking. Is like,
well,
so what was it that you think caused that?
Yeah, I mean, I think to shift the focus of the question just a little bit, I think there's a very common sentiment that exists, and it may exist in some of you three, it may exist in some of your listeners, certainly in many of my community, and that's the concept of a dream job. And I have come to realize that there is no such thing, and that to believe such is a delusion. Specifically, the problem, the kind of inherent toxicity with the idea of a dream job is that it places a lot of the value, I think, on the acquisition or in the achievement of such job and not really the work that you do, right? And so a lot of people are like, wow, working at a video game company sounds like a dream job, and then what would you want to do? Like work for the best game company or the game company that seems like they're the most humane or the ones that's doing this, right? It's like the moment that you acquire that thing is not ever more important than the thing that you do with it. And while I certainly had a lot of valuable experiences, and I certainly got a lot of cool stuff done at Riot Games, many of which you may have consumed over the years, I think for me, I was homeless, couch surfing, playing video games. I was not in a position to negotiate. I was like, anything sounds awesome, and the fact that it turned into something like this is really, really cool. But really never in my life had I ever had the agency or the ability to make a decision, right? It was just sort of like, from the moment I worked at Riot, it was like, okay, well, hey, I'm here now, and then what do you guys need? And then let me try to apply all of my energy towards this or that task or goal. And, I very little got to think about, okay, well, what are the things that I value? What are the things that I want to do, right? And so I think it was kind of the intersection of doing things that did not align with sort of a goal for myself that was emerging. And so when that kind of hit the point, I left at the beginning of last year. There was really kind of a moment in January when we were all talking about like, hey, we're going to plan the next year of stuff, because Riot is, as most tech companies are, a place where the deadline, the deadline is constantly there. The moment you finish another thing, you're on to the next thing. You're never going to finish a project and then have time to chill, right? Unless it is literally the end of the year. But then again, you have another year left. And so I kind of stared down the barrel of the new year and was like, I'm not really into it. I don't know if I could do a whole year. I caught myself thinking like, oh, well, would I stay a little bit to help this thing or help that thing? And then, when I did that, I was like, well, okay, oops. If I don't leave now, then I'm never going to leave. Right. And so,
Right.
Does that make sense? Did I get close to answering?
Yeah,
the
yeah. I
question?
mean, you're close enough to what I was looking for. So,
All right.
follow up.
Sure.
What do you miss most about Riot? And okay, two things are off limits. One, you cannot say people because everybody misses people, and that's a weak ass answer. And two, you can say Bilgewater Brew, but I want a different answer if you say that. That's from DeClaude, by the way, who's shouting out to you from the Twitch.
No,
chat.
I got the chat up. I see him out there. No, I mean what, the food, right? Like,
Yes.
Do they have a really badass cafeteria there or something?
they have the largest commercial kitchen in Los Angeles.
Wow.
They do.
Yeah.
I actually got to tour Riot Games, and I was able to be in like the Bilgewater Brew and stuff, and I was just like blown away. And I was like, wait.
Yeah, it's overrated. Like it's just a place where people get coffee and shit in the middle of the day. But the cafeteria is like, I mean, they stock the kitchens and they have breakfast and they have lunch and dinner. So if you lived really close to the office, like I did, and still do, like a less than a 10-minute walk, you ate literally all 3 of your meals during the week at Riot, which is free as hell.
Wow.
So yeah. I mean, yeah, but it's like if you take away people and not having to pay for food, I don't know what else I would miss out of the experience, right? No, I mean, it's like if I wanted to still be there, I would, right?
Right,
That's
yeah.
what I mean. It's like take away both of those things, and it's like, well, it's just mostly a lot of the stuff that made me want to start doing things on my own.
Right. So, I mean, I get the feeling that you would not necessarily thrive in like a heavily corporate environment, and I think Riot increasingly became that. Is that kind of what a lot of your, issue became, or what? Or am I way off?
No, well, I mean, I don't think it's wrong to say that the company became more corporate just because as companies grow, that's sort of what happens, right?
Right. I mean, inevitably, sure.
Yeah. I also, I haven't been in a super corporate job, but I also never will be because I'm not interested in that. So it's hard for me to know, right? I think I think there is a non-trivial amount of like energy in corporate companies that are thrown towards creator types because they don't understand it and they have enough money to just kind of go for it. So like if I ever landed a job at one of those companies running or handling some sort of initiative like that, I think it would probably work very well because they would just be like, here's the stuff that we need and when we need it, and otherwise let's let you do it. But yeah, I'm not going to, I don't know. You know what I mean? It's hard for me to answer the question as presented because I have not and will not be in that position.
So do you just view yourself as more of like a creator, like an artist type, or is, you know, because I'm trying to figure out, because I know you did a lot of balance work and I know you did a lot of things like that, but I never saw like anything that was like art or character creation or anything pop on your resume, but it seems like that would be a very natural fit for you based on kind of what.
I mean, like, I've been streaming for almost an entire year, right? Our current lexicon doesn't really allow for things that isn't the word creator that fits in this large umbrella, right? I mean, I wrote a lot of shit. I ran a podcast. I ran a YouTube show. I did this, that, and the other. And so it's like, I don't know what you call that, but that thing.
Yeah. Okay. So like more, okay. Content creation, I guess, has creation in it. So that I guess would fit.
I mean, I try to avoid the word content because it's largely meaningless.
Right. Content's very blunt. And
yeah, people are like, "Oh, I make content." I'm like, "Shut up, man. I don't want to do that."
I just get confused.
Tell me the thing you make.
Because, you know, I look at your Twitter handle, I see a guy wearing a tie, and I'm like, that's weird. He's so corporate.
Yeah.
And then I meet you, and it's not.
Well, I mean, to be fair, the tie, it was a Donkey Kong tie.
Yeah, DK thing.
Oh, okay.
So it's
all
like,
right.
you know.
Now my dots are connected. I feel less dumb.
Yeah, no, you're fine. You're good.
Are you enjoying Smash 4?
Well, I not anymore because Bayonetta was released. I played that game. I put thousands of hours into that game from the moment it came out on the 3DS. I was competing. I flew to Australia for a tournament and did pretty well there. And then Donkey Kong got buffed, and then that was really awesome for me. And then Bayonetta came out, and it was like, hey, time to wait for the next Smash game. Time to stop. This was a good couple years.
I feel like that's what everyone says. They're like, oh yeah, just Bayonetta. No.
I mean, that's what everyone says, but like only me and the other people who play actual heavy characters, I think, are like allowed to. Like someone has a slightly losing
Smash. DK?
Yeah. I played Donkey Kong.
Okay.
Yeah. Like there are people who like play like, you know, characters that have maybe like a -5, -10 matchup to Bayonetta and are just sort of like, you know, I mean, like percentage wise, and they're like, Bayonetta is so hard, I hate this game, and I'm like, dog, I literally have to set my controller down, like I can't, like I don't like when Bayo starts doing her shit, I cannot play the game, so like I don't want to hear your tears, but I like Smash for a while. I've been playing Icons. If you guys have heard of Icons, it's made by a couple of friends of mine who left Riot, company called Wave Dash Games. It's kind of a newer platform fighter. It's still in closed beta. I think they're going to be going to open beta in the next couple months or something like that. Highly suggest people check them out. A couple names people might know: Grumpy Monkey, Iron Stylus are Grumpy Monkey is the art director. Mike Marino, Iron Stylus, is doing character art for them. And then one of my oldest friends at Riot, Smash Gizmo, is their lead designer on kind of, you know, all the character creation and stuff like that. He's been a long time Melee competitor. You know, he's got his kind of tendrils deep in that community. So Icons kind of has my attention as far as platform fighting goes, because that's kind of my favorite thing to do. And they have a character named Zana that's like if you fused like Ganondorf and She-Hulk and Donkey Kong all together, it's just she's the coolest thing of all time, and I'm down to like have heavy characters that are actually good, so I'm into it.
It's awesome. I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah, man. Icons Combat Arena. It's a dumb as hell name, but League of Legends started off being called like League of Legends Clash of Fates back on the box, if anyone owns that.
Yeah. I don't own it, but I did see it. Like
everyone's just like, when their game comes out, they have to, I don't know. They're like, Horizon Zero Dawn was, you know, it was Game of the Year quality, and they still managed to come up with the dumbest sounding name because they were like, it's a new IP, what do we got to do? And they're like, I don't know, throw a colon on it. That's what everyone loves to do. They're like, no one's going to buy this shit unless it has a colon and then another title.
You need 3 more descriptive words to throw on the end of that so people know what they're getting into, you know.
Oh, I was like, what? There was that one MMO that was like Terra, but then Terra itself they made into an acronym.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
It was like a super anime thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So,
I'm
MMOs. Let's talk about that. Did you? I noticed on your stream you have mostly like these are the games that I've had a collection of for like years or have been gifted or whatever. And you know everybody votes on play the next game. I was really into you playing the Zelda whenever that came out, the newer Zelda. That was fun.
The Breath of the Wild.
Mm-hmm. Back when that came out, that was super fun to watch, by the way. But I don't know. Do you have any MMO chops? You play MMOs before this?
Yeah, what I mean, I played a lot of WoW. I don't. Are there other MMOs? I'm not exactly certain.
Of course, man. I mean, it depends on how
Wait,
deep you go back. EverQuest, Ultima Online, Dark Age of Camelot.
Yeah, my mom says I'm not allowed to play those games. They're too old and scary. No. I played. I played Wrath of the Lich King back in like 07 or whatever. It was like right before I went and did my whole homeless kick. I was in like a top guild in the world when that happened, and then I've been increasingly more casual as time went on. But that's kind of the deal, right? Like, you know, I come back every other expansion for a little bit just to see how things change. It's awesome when you do that. Like, it's exhausting to play an MMO all the time because then, you know, you reach the end of the content and then a new expansion comes out, but then you've been doing the previous content, but now you have to do the new expansion, right? Taking a break is awesome because then you get to go back and you just get to go at your own pace, go check out all that other shit. Like, if you see a really stupid ass boss, well, guess what? You're strong enough to kill it, and you're also like, man, I would have hated doing this normally. You know, I would have. But then you go back and kill the ones you used to kill, and you're like, oh, this used to suck, but now I'm really beating the shit out of this thing. You know, there's a lot of I think pretty nostalgic / cathartic moments when you kind of alternate, where you know otherwise it really takes a lot of your time. I think.
Yeah, for sure.
I 100% agree with that. So, what are you playing right now?
What am I playing right now? Mm-hmm. I'm playing Dark Cloud 2. This is a 2003 PS2 game.
Isn't it that PS2 game where like you build like houses and some shit?
Yeah, Dark Cloud 2 has
that game and
most systems in a single video game. They have it's a dungeon crawler JRPG with town building, Sims like recruitment, fishing, golfing, like the most intense weapon building system of all time, Like the weapon chart for that game is more complex than like my own family lineage. Like it's just, you know, every weapon is going to grow into like 18 different weapons and you don't know which one they do. You take pictures of things and then the pictures of the things you take, you combine in your head as ideas to come up with inventions to build items and things. One character has a Gundam that he builds and you can give it like samurai swords and like a motorcycle wheels. The other character transforms into monsters. So there's like a Pokemon mini game. It gets fucking wild. It's insane.
Yeah, I've got that game, and I got like a quarter of the way through it, and then my PS2 burned out.
Yeah.
And I got a PS3, and then I forgot all about that I had it. And I saw that you were playing that. I was like, holy shit, that is in my basement, like right over there. I could go grab the case right now. Is that worth it? I mean, it seems like you're describing kind of the best game ever.
It definitely is a game from 2003, but it also, I think, has a lot of, you know, value, I think, today for people who are interested in that sort of thing. For me, I just kind of launched or announced this thing that I'm doing. I'm going to be doing a 60-day fitness and streaming challenge with my community, and anyone who is listening is obviously welcome to take part in that as well.
Okay, details. How are you? Yeah, you like push-ups every time you die, kind of thing, or what?
No. It's there's a. I mean, you know, I'll. I go to my Twitter, click link. I don't know how to say it to people that you know, I don't know when these get edited and when they get put up. But the idea is there is a fitness plan that exists online called the Hero's Journey. It is a 60-day fitness plan that is kind of based like it's themed like a choose your own adventure. So every day it kind of has you know, it's like an advent calendar for workouts. You just pick the day and then you check out all the new things that are going on there. But then it's like, okay, you come up to an enemy, like, what do you do? If you run away, do these workouts. If you want to kick the shit out of it, do these workouts. And then if you did that, then on day 7, do this other shit. And you kind of just, it's just a little bit of consistency, and it's, made by a bunch of trainers who are smart to make sure that it's a good sort of workout. And it's every day. It's 60 days. It's literally nonstop. And so what I'm doing is, I stream 30 to 40 hours a week. I stream every weekday. I'm going to start doing that every day. So every single day out of the next 60 days after the 22nd, I will be online, twitch.tv/Scarizard plays, etc. But then the idea is that the sort of programming that I would normally do, taking a hiatus from my backlog where I have people kind of vote on games and we try to pick out games that, seem interesting or kind of from my backlog or whatever. And we move to things that are a bit longer form. So I'm actually getting into speedrunning. And I have a couple games that I'm going to be speedrunning.
Ooh, nice.
And learning. Well, because the idea is that it kind of links up with the idea of, hey, we start at day 1 and then you work out a little bit by bit. And then at the end, you kind of have something, right? So the idea is that in this sense, I kind of start off and I'm like, hey, I'm bad at a lot of these games. And then maybe by the end of it, we're kind of okay. And then in addition to working, to streaming every day, I do my workouts from the Hero's Journey on stream every day. And anyone who, in Europe or wherever the fuck they are can join with me. And if I'm certainly going to embarrass myself working out on stream, they can find 30 minutes in their day to kind of do it as well. So that's why I'm playing Dark Cloud 2, by the way, because I'm going to speedrun that game. It's like a 5 hours.
I saw that. I have no idea how the fuck you're going to speedrun a JRPG.
Oh, dude. You can speedrun anything, man. Just play fast.
I'm going to speedrun a marathon. Like, slow up, Chief. It's a marathon. You're like, they're not intended for that. But no. I want to know more about this fitness deal. So, like, on a given day, have you started it? Or, what, like, day 1 is like?
The 22nd. So, next Monday.
Do you have any idea what you're, like, signing up for? Do you know, like, what a typical day would be? Or, like, how does that work?
Well,
because, I may be interested in trying it out with you. Shit, I've lost, like, 30 pounds or so over the last 3-4 months.
Yeah, man, go for it. No,
I kind of, if it's like, an average day is like running 25 miles and doing 150 squat thrusts or something, then maybe not.
Don't be a coward, man. It's 2018. Come on. When are you going to do it if not now? No, I'll post my link into the this is my link. It has all the information. I posted it into your chat. Anyone out there who listens can obviously come check it out on my Twitter. And yeah, this is so you check it out yourself. You can find the Hero's Journey thing there. It's variable, so you can kind of take it at your own pace. There's different levels, so if someone's already very fit, they can do level 2 or level 3, which is more reps. The first day is like 60 climbers, 60 leg raises, 60 something else. So it's that many. It's 240 reps of the thing. But on at level 2 it's 120 of each, and at level 3 it's 200 of each, right? So you can fucking just figure out how you want it to go. And then it does itself. It's a really cool thing, and I was going to do it with my community. I do Swoltember every September. I've been doing that for a couple of years. It started off as just a dumb thing that I was doing, but then a lot of people on Twitter actually got into it, and but then I hurt my foot. I got a big injury, and so I couldn't. And then
you went from swole to swollen.
Yeah. No, yeah, it was not good. And so, I've certainly backslid over the months into my recovery. Now that I feel really good to attempt it again, I'm like, all right, hey, let's do it. There's a lot of people in my community, a lot of people just in general who are like, I have fitness goals. I want to do that every new year. And I'm like, okay, well now, like, join my Discord, sign up on this thing. We have 1 million people who are all trying to do it together. And now you probably feel more, willing to or able to keep up with doing it. So there you go.
Okay. No, that's really
awesome.
interesting. I'm just curious because my wife is like an insanity instructor, and
wow. You can be instructed to.
Yeah,
to be insane.
She works out like 2-ish times a day, so she's like fit as hell. And
you didn't mean insanity like the concept. That's like a brand or something.
No, like insanity fitness program.
Oh,
Like,
I was
it's
like,
insane. You're so fit.
Oh.
Not like
no.
yeah. She
I was-
like teaches
I
people
thought I
how
was
to be
learning a new
crazy.
thing today.
No,
Okay,
that's
I
a
feel good.
natural side effect.
Yeah, you're good.
But yeah, no, she does that whole like works out super hard, like twice a day. And she's like, Blake, come to my class. I was like, yeah, okay, like maybe for like an anniversary or something. And then that happened, and I felt like I was gonna die. So like
yeah.
I didn't want to sign up for something that was like you're gonna die level fitness. But
Well,
like,
so see, that's the trick. If you don't work out, you do die, and if you do work out, you also die. We kind of can't avoid that. I don't know if you know.
well, like
but-
I'm just saying, like anything short of like flipping a huge tractor tire on the beach, I think I'd be all right with.
Yeah, no. This is not flipping tractors. The thing that's really cool about this is if you follow this program, and you can certainly do your own. There's no pressure on that. But if you do it, everything you can do just at home, chilling. You don't need weights. You don't need anything. Just literally, have a space and then have the desire to do it.
Awesome.
That's awesome,
Yeah,
though.
that sounds like it'd be a lot of fun. I think I could probably shore up some flab. So
Yep.
I'd be down.
Everyone can go for it.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna join you for that one.
Hell
So
yeah,
is
man.
Is there a specific reason why this came about to try to do this with the community?
Well, I
Besides
mean-
just getting healthier.
It's my job, right? Hey, did you guys know that I stream? Hey, you guys know that it's my job? No. Well, I mean, it's like, look, I'm not gonna do stuff that seems like it's beneficial to myself and then not try to take care of other people, right? That seems rude. That seems like I'm like, I don't want to go live every day and be like, oh yeah, look at these gains I'm making. Hey, how are you guys feeling? Oh, I hope everyone's doing such a great job. As I just like, lift a fucking, entire chair filled with like fruit and have it roll down my fucking mouth. Like,
Oh.
it's like,
Oh
it's like,
no, I left these triangular shaped dumbbells right here by my computer.
Right,
You just
yeah, I mean,
move
it's
those
just-
over here.
I mean, like when you stream full time, you don't really, like I saw probably the least amount of people in this last year than I've ever seen in my life. I'm normally a very social person, but I got a job to do, and I get very invested in the lives of people who invest in me, and really working on building the best community online, and I think we do have it. I don't mean offense to any of you guys or your listeners, but twitch.tv/Scarizard plays best chat on the channel, bar none, ever, forever. We're extremely low tolerance on any of the shit that normally makes communities pretty toxic, and we actively work to try to fight against it. So,
Awesome.
we donate like thousands of dollars to charity. We're actually like we're the best ones, the best ones online. And so, I'm constantly thinking about, it's like, hey, look, I could go try to advertise to other people, and be like, hey, you guys should sub to me, whatever, right? But it's like, I don't know that that's more valuable than taking care of the people that are here. And then hopefully other people are like, man, that guy really gives a shit about the people that he interacts with. And maybe I want that in my life instead of being memed on.
Well,
or
I'll
whatever.
tell you this, like, we have had a lot of streamers on the show. We've had a lot of, like, high elo players and things like that come on the show. And one of my favorites that we've ever had on was Painless Death. And the reason he's a support streamer, challenger support streamer. And one of the reasons I liked him so much is because if you went to his stream, you got the impression,
That he's not a shithead.
Yeah, he's not a shithead, and he actually like actively engages with everybody, right? And that's refreshing to be able to just get in there without being behind like a paywall or having to buy like a loot box or something, just to be able to talk to him and say, hey, what do you think of fill in the blank champion, right? And we as a podcast, I mean, granted, this is more of a like for funsies episode, but we generally focus on like, hey, this is how you like get better at League, right?
I don't know if that's a dig on your normal guests or if it's a dig on me, but it's certainly a dig on somebody.
Well, no, it's more the fact that we have not talked
I'm
about
for
the
fun
game
and everyone
League
else
of Legends.
isn't, or you take everyone else seriously and you can't take me seriously.
No, I'll tell you what, we'll get around to it. We'll ask you,
That's
what do you play in League? How are you going to get better? We'll ask. We'll do that. So that way, we round it all out. But, we haven't really done that yet, so I didn't know if it was going to go there. So anyway, but I mean, yeah, like that's kind of how like our niche was, and I thought it was really cool to be able to recommend somebody that has that kind of relationship with his people, and it sounds like that's something that you do too.
Oh yeah. I mean, I didn't, I mean, I told a lot of people if I wanted to, when I made the jump, if I wanted to become like really popular, I would have played PUBG and then been like casually racist and like, just, would have just climbed the ranks. But no, it's like, yeah, it's like a slower grind, but it's one that I don't feel bad about what I do ever.
Right.
I hope that I get to do it. I hope that I get to continue to do it. That's my plan. That's my goal. But I get to sleep amazing, which is something that I mean, fuck. Maybe everyone else just makes beds out of piles of money and then they feel good. That's totally fine. I'm sure everyone has their own different ways of coping with it. But I'm very happy with what I do right now. And I try to think about like, hey, what's what makes me different? Aside from being like handsome and like better at games than most people and like very funny, like I sound awesome. I was just kind of thinking, I was like, well, what are the things that really set me apart? But no, I mean, the thing that I do feel like I have an edge over other people. I forget that I like worked in the games industry for a million years and have like a bunch of good opinions on it. So like that's part of it. But the thing that I thought that I was pretty good at when it came to being streamer is that, I felt like I gave a shit more than other people. Like literally everyone who's in your stream chat right now, I know their first name. I usually know their last name if they've been comfortable enough to share it with me. And I know that for like every one of my subs and then people who aren't subs, you just hang out all the time, right? Like I try my best to get really invested in their lives because I want them to feel like the time that they put into me is validated and kind of vice versa, right? So I was like, especially looking down this year, anyone who's in my stream generally feels like, they're like, whoa, this is super fun and I like being around, all of the awesome people here. And I'm like, okay, so how do I really capitalize on that? And it's like, well, then this entire year, just try to find a lot of ways to get us to do shit together, right? Become this rolling Katamari ball of positivity. And then at that point, if people want to get into it, then all they got to do is just show up and get swept up. And then we're good to go. So that's the idea.
So you're like the CLG's basketball hoop of Twitch TV.
Man, I would really pick something a little less, I guess, used and abused than that basketball hoop. But certainly, yeah, sure. No, for the way I think you intended it, I'm good with that.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh my god.
Cool. Should we move on to League of Legends stuff?
Yeah, sure. So
what do you want to talk about?
I know because I did my research. You're Diamond player. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What role is your main? Where does Scarizard play?
Well, it really changes based on the season. I play mostly characters. I think most of them end up being top laners, but there's some junglers. There's Lucian. That's the whole role. Really, it's just Lucian.
Wait, but according to Huni, Lucian's a top laner.
Yeah, I know. But like according to Huni, I don't know, man. I only listen to people who are world champions. And so it's kind of difficult for me to take an opinion on anything. That's kind of how I feel. I listen to people who don't get 3-0 clapped. Like that's where I'm at.
God, so soon.
I have one of my alt accounts is called Good Lucian. Because everyone's like best Riven NA or whatever. I'm just good at Lucian, and then I'll end a game like 9-3-6, and people will be like, you know what, that was pretty good. It wasn't amazing. I wasn't like blown away. It's like
that was properly advertised.
Yeah, you certainly played the game, and we didn't lose, and you helped our victory. That's kind of the idea.
That's funny.
No, yeah. So, but I mean, like people are kind of spamming the chat. Elawi is one of my main characters. It's awesome. Like when I was working, right, I got to be the first main of anything. I worked on. I'm the first Aatrox main. I'm the first Kha'Zix main. I'm the first Lucian main. I'm the first Elawi main. And people get to be. I would say that, and then people are like, "No, you're not." I'm like, "No, I literally played the character before anyone else." So you can't.
I played the character when it was like Nar sitting on the back of Nunu's,
Yeah.
I saw some of those weird models that they like mashed together to make temp characters.
Yeah. A lot of that stuff. Yeah, Kled. Yeah, there was Gentleman Nar riding on top of Hecarim was Kled.
That's what it was. Yeah.
So,
That's fantastic.
That's so
But yeah, no, I saw you were playing Ornn a lot when he was released, even
Oh,
before
yeah.
even
Yeah, I love
before buffs.
yeah, dude, he didn't really need those buffs, and everyone was like,
I agree.
"Yeah, he does." And then I don't know, man. I look. Here's the deal. People are allowed to have other opinions than me on League of Legends, but they're also allowed to be wrong. Like I don't know. I just worked on that shit for so long. I played Ornn. Ornn's W does everything but his taxes. Like if you read it, it's just the dumbest ability ever made. And he comes out and he's at like a low win rate because he's like a tank that needs you to like kind of think about what you do a slight bit. And everyone's like, he's so bad. I lose all the time. And I'm like, look at this ability. How are you losing? Right? and then everyone's like, oh, he needs to be buffed. And I'm like, no, he doesn't. And then he gets buffed. And then Ornn is the strongest character in the game. And then everyone's like, why did they buff Ornn? I'm like, God, the League of Legends.
Let's talk about that. Like, how much do you feel like Riot reacts to the Echo Chamber? Is it like way more than they should? Not enough? Kind of.
I think it's a
balance?
little more than they should. I think. Yeah, I mean, I gave feedback from them on the buffs that I thought Ornn needed, and he in fact got those exact buffs, and then he got a whole bunch of other shit. That was, I think it's like, they make characters and then they want those characters to be good. They don't want them to be like, they don't want them to be broken. There's no weird conspiracy about like really shit overpowered, so you bite skins. Like, I don't know. Those people are like why Trump got elected. Like, I don't care about this. Those people still think that like there's some like pizza, weird chain of Hillary, like child molestation ring. I don't give a fuck about that. You like take the tinfoil hat off, you're fine. No, but I mean, it's like if you make a character and it comes out and then people think it's dog shit and then they keep like for a month. Like there is a thing that's true, which is if your character is strong, but people like by and large, like 90% of the community believes that it's garbage for months after release. Like at that point, it's like, do you have a responsibility to make a change? Like at some point, right? And I think there's a solid argument for yes. I think it's not, let's make Ornn's W like, literally do everything. But, I think, for instance, making his mana costs go down, I think the big one for me was collision radius on his E. I think there were a lot of areas on the map, specifically around base gates, that it was very inconsistent. And, if he hits that move, it's very good. And if he completely misses it, then it's over, especially because he was released into a world where Curse of the Colossus was the strongest keystone, right? And so, like, landing both your W proc plus your E to trigger big shields that would allow you to continue to live, like, those are the things that you need to succeed, right? And so fixing the things that made Ornn feel particularly weak, the little bit of base stats tweaks that he got, those were fine, right? Like those are just, hey, this character works. Just how well is he working, right? But I think in general, the League of Legends community is very bad at figuring out things that are strong. And then when someone who's smarter than them actually manages to make a thing that sounds dumb work, like the old like smite mid Runeglaive Ezreal, or shit like that, then they jump on it and then they're like, actually this is stupid, how did Riot ever make it? It's like the Hearthstone Reddit and Hearthstone spoilers, right? Like they literally looked at every card in this last set and were like, this is probably the lowest power set that's ever been made, and it comes out and all the cards are good and it's like, who would have known? Whoa.
Yeah.
It's as if people tested this shit professionally.
Yeah. And then it's just funny because then the criticisms, though still valuable, go the other way, which is, how did they print this? Where before they were like, how did they make a bad card? And then they're like, how did they make it so good? In League of Legends, it's like, that's not going to fix the problem at all. And then it comes out and it's just sort of like, why didn't they know about this ahead of time?
Well, what do you think about? I mean, there have been a lot of champions that literally are like kitchen sink champions, right? Like, I'm thinking of Echo. What you said about Ornn's W is pretty accurate. I mean, there are a lot of, champions that just kind of have an ability to do a ton of variable shit. Is that good for the game? Bad for the game? Zoe, another champion that would be kind of like that.
What ability on Zoe specifically are you referring to?
The summoner spells.
The spell thief?
Spells.
Right.
That being kind of a high ceiling and very low floor. Well, actually, probably a higher floor. But the potential of things that you can do with stealing summoner spells is ludicrous versus... You
Right.
see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And summoner spells are gated as being some of the most powerful things in the game with high cooldowns,
Yeah.
game-changing abilities, and the ability to just snag them seems pretty fucking strong. And then, if you put that much power budget into one ability, the rest of the kit either has to do nothing. You see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
does that make sense? Like, how do you balance that? Or then, secondly, is it good to even make a champion like that?
So, well, I mean, like Echo's balanced, right? Like.
Yeah, I feel like Echo's probably pretty balanced right now.
Right. So basically, I think a lot of the characters you named are some of the best characters that have ever been made. And when League of Legends is over, they will be the ones that are talked about, whether they are yelled about or whether they are loved. Like, you want characters that are cool. You want characters that do things, right? I don't know why there is this sentiment in the community when a character like this comes out. They're like, why did they make something like Echo's W? I'm like, because it's different than the way you play the rest of the game, and it leads to some cool moments. Like, you know, almost always a time that a character like this shows up, it's always that the developers were coming up with something that was going to be pretty different or pretty unique, right? And then they had to build in some level of consistency so that if that thing did not work out, the character didn't just completely fall over. Because there are a lot of times like Bard, right? Like Bard came out to like a 30% win rate, like something god awful.
Yeah,
right.
I think it was like a 35,
and it was like, you know, Bard was supposed to be this cool roaming champion, but because they made him as a character, but then there wasn't enough like actual shit to make the rest of him work, he just fell over. Right now, I mean, whether or not you like it, they've made Bard do 1 million damage. So now it's like, now Bard's fallback is like, hey, if you're not good at roaming or you don't embrace that part of him, you can still be functional. But the best Bard players are able to take advantage of both, right? Mm-hmm. And sure. So you look at something like what is it, like Echo, right? And you're like, okay, well. Everyone remembers Tank Echo, but everyone wrongfully is like, because he could build tank items. And I'm like, no, that's like only part of the problem, right? Because the tank items went away, and then he just built Triforce and did the same shit. And Tank Echo wasn't really Tank Echo. It was just the fact that his passive slowed you as well as speeded him, right? And it slowed you in a very low cooldown. So he was very sticky, right? He was basically Jax. Right, or Aurelia. He was doing those things better than those other characters, right? And the reason that passive existed wasn't because it was like Riot doesn't know how to make characters; they're so overloaded. It's just like it's like if Echo's R and his W, which require a ton of prediction and actually create like a lot of really unique stuff, didn't work out, then the character doesn't do anything, right? You've added a character into the game that has no purpose, right? And so it's better to have a lot of that character proved out and actually show that it works out and that it's like, okay, it's good. And then be like, okay, what are the parts of his kit that are actually making him a little less healthy? And it's almost always completely tangential to the thing that people complain about. Everyone was like, Camille's so strong, and it's like, yeah, it's actually this W move, right? It's actually nothing that she's doing to you, and it's everything to the fact that that she heals off of minions, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's like turns out you take away like 300 health from that character over the course of a couple minutes, and she's actually fine. But that's effectively what a lot of those things were at the time. So yeah, I don't know, man. I think anytime that people complain about this kind of stuff, it's very unlikely that they know what they're talking about. That's fine. You don't need to know what you're talking about to complain about stuff. But you do need to know what you're talking about if you want to talk about solutions, which is, I think, what a lot of the League community jumps to. And then it just has bad solutions. So, yeah. I mean, it's also not their job. They're not paid to come up with the solution, so that's fine. They're allowed to yell in a chamber. It's also just why it's like, I tend to listen to the people who are either paid to play the game outside of Riot or paid to make the game inside of Riot. Those are the opinions that I think carry the most weight.
No, I think you're 100% right, because you've got people who are in the know that have sufficient skill at the game to know kind of what problems are, and in that mesh are quite familiar with the abuse cases. So I think that's a good point. My question, though,
real quick, I want to clarify for anyone listening that's like, why is this guy being an asshole? Like, I don't want to say that you cannot have an opinion of the game if you're not one of those two things, but I do think you need to like align yourself to one of them and start to understand why they think that way, right? Mm-hmm. Don't sound like, don't be that guy. don't be the person that's just sort of like randomly, don't be the Reddit knows balance #1 guy. That's like everyone's been there.
Hey, Patrick,
It's funny because I felt that a lot when Jhin was released, and Jhin is my favorite champion thematically and everything. And I remember playing him, and I was like, "Wait, this champion's like so strong. This champion feels like okay." And then everyone's like, "He does nothing." I'm like, "What?"
Yeah,
and
and
they bumped them, and then I was
yeah,
like, "Wait a second, he has like a 55% win rate. What? This champion's bust. He does 1,000,000 damage." I'm like, "Yes, he was already doing this. What do you mean?"
Yeah. Well, I mean, Jin's another character in this kind of long list. Jin doesn't really have a singular ability that I think you can point to, unlike some of these other characters that have to pull a lot of overtime on, the Summoner Spell grabbing or Echo's W or something. But, Jin at a concept is like, hey, here's a character that doesn't scale with attack speed, doesn't function in team fights like most marksmen do, and also is meant to operate largely effectively at like 2 screens length, right? So it's like, if that gambit doesn't work out, then the character's useless. So we got to make him kind of good at some other stuff, right? Which is where a lot of like the kiting, like usually this manifests in his attack, the movement speed on shot, right? Like an end game build, he's usually getting hasted on every attack, right? And those sorts of things work out. It's just, if people want League of Legends to be a kind of game where the future of character releases is that more unique things are added to the game, they have to then understand that some amount of glue has to be added to those things so that they work. And then they need to be patient and then speak up about those things that are too consistent, right? Galio, super cool. Galio, also the most powerful champion for like months after his release, right? You got to let those things exist, right? You have to give them time. And then instead of being like, his ult's so broken, why does he one-shot me by building tank? It's like, instead of doing that, like, do some research on the things that are actually causing those to be that way and have some meaningful discussion about them. Because usually the people internally are thinking about a couple of things that they could do, but they're like, okay, which is the community most likely going to freak the fuck out over if we take away his damage or if we do whatever. And, so then it ended up being like, okay, we'll make him build damage to get damage and actually deal less damage if he doesn't build damage. And then people were like, why is Gallia one-shotting me? It's like, if you're not playing the other part of the clip where he gets attacked and dies immediately, right? Like,
yeah,
what do you want,
which is what I saw. Like, I was like, wait, this AP ratio is disgusting. I'm gonna try him out. I've been playing Galio for months, and
yeah,
I was
probably
like,
died a shitload.
Yeah,
man.
I was like, why am I dying? And then my team is like, wait, way to go being fucking awful at this game. Why don't you learn how to play AP Galio? And I'm like, this plays differently from what I've been playing him. Chill the fuck out, please.
Yeah.
That's funny. So yeah, I think for the community, what happens, like, you play a game, you play a match, you have that negativity bias because you always remember that one time where it's like, I got one shot by this is broken. You hear everyone on Reddit yelling about it's broken, so you're like, yeah, it is broken and blah blah blah. But you have to do that research and really figure out and critically think. For those of us that aren't like super great critical thinkers and really don't know like balance design stuff, like, where you mentioned going to people that are inside of Reddit or inside of Riot that get paid to balance, and then you have people outside of Riot that are playing, being paid to play. Who do you have a suggestion for resources for people to go to this person and see their tweets when they're talking about it, or what would you suggest?
And not really. I think I thought I used to be pretty good at this. Wes Smash Gizmo was pretty good at it. I don't really know who's doing it these days. I'll just be honest with you. I don't know if anyone.
Metzler.
Yeah, I mean, like Andre is he's like the head of League of Legends design, period. So like it's his job to do it, but I don't know how much he like interfaces. I know he's been doing a lot of these like quick gameplay thoughts or whatever. I mean you should be reading those. He posts them rather frequently, and they're honestly talking about, like, hey, here's stuff we're gonna do, and then here's stuff we're looking at in the future. And so it's pretty rare, I think, for the average League of Legends player to have a concern or have something they're thinking about and have it not be somewhat touched on in that conversation. But I don't think there's any sort of like real time, like someone's constantly engaging or doing stuff that you could follow. I mean, and I think I'm trying to think, are there any streamers that I think of that do this particularly well? I mean, I was talking about it recently on my stream. I think Antibot's pretty good. I think that person's been pretty reasonable. I think Meteos has often. I mean, sometimes his opinions are very strong and can get a little sidetracked. But I mean, for the most part, like from getting to know him when I was at Riot, I always thought Meteos did a pretty good job. Someone's mentioning Valkyrin in the chat. I think Valkyrin traditionally has been pretty good, but I wonder if he hasn't been trending to be a little more outrage focused, as I think his streaming has picked up, which I think is just sort of a natural progression. You know, it's, I mean, you know, not to just call him out, but it's like Wings of Death, Valkyrin. There's like a even Night Blue, right? Like there's a style of thing that happens in League of Legends community where someone gets really well known for their like analysis or their ability to like help out, and then that gets them really popular, and then they stop doing that and they either become angry or very loud or both.
Well, that's actually how we close out our podcast, is the 10 minutes of outrage at the end where we just
Oh,
we're
sweet.
trying to get popular, damn it. You know, we have to.
Someone mentions Hashinshin, but you would need to have had good opinions in the first place.
Oh no! Why did you mention Hashinshin?
Dude, Hashinshin literally retweeted something recently that I said like years ago to try to like take it out of context or something. Like Hashinshin is just a guy that's like, God, how can I say it? Hashinshin tries to paint himself as some dude, you know, he's like, I really know about balance, and he's like applied and been rejected from the balance team like more times than anyone. I'll put him on blast. Like that guy just literally, and it's a thing where it's like, it's either that your opinions aren't good or that literally no one wants to suffer through working with you. It's one or both.
With how many people dodge when they get him in his team, I'll lean in towards one of them.
At least.
At least. Oh my God!
You were mentioning Solar Renekton only. I don't know anything about that. I've seen some Renekton only, some Renekton highlights. I think he's usually pretty good. I think
his wave management stuff has been great.
Yeah, I think
he does a really great job.
That's a little more informative rather than it's like this is some good analysis and stuff that I think or kind of wish people should do. What would I say? Who's the guy? He makes videos for LOL. Is it LOL King? Do they still make videos? Shakara's, if people know.
Oh,
yeah.
Blitz Esports.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what he's up to now, but he's always made pretty good videos, and I think been pretty informative. He still does articles for Blitz Esports, and now he is one of the analytical coaches for Clutch Gaming. I see. Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, it's honestly like, having good opinions and good analysis in the League of Legends community is so underrated that most of those people have jobs because it's not. I mean, it's not feasible for them to continue to have their good opinions or people aren't paying for it. Like Spellzy used to do this back in the day, and then he got hired by Riot, and I think I don't know if he just left
on a team
you to go to another place in Riot, or if he left Riot to go to a different team.
I think he went to a team in NA. I can't remember which one. I saw it on Twitter. It's somewhere there.
Yeah. But there was one of those. I mean, a lot of these people just get scooped up to be analysts in other different situations. I mean, I know Valkyrin kind of started to be very much like a Twitch streamer plus kind of this guy for TSM. But I mean, he's got to make money, so I understand his content has shifted somewhat. So I get that.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Yeah. Is there something that you tend to see on patch notes or changes that you're like, or new champions where you're like, hey, this is broken, everyone should jump on it while they can if they're like a meta slave? Is there something that like really ticks that puts a twinkle in your eye?
Let me see. I think I'm going to try to find the answer here because I certainly think there are some things. I mean, I think anything that applies on hits is 10 times stronger than you think it is, literally always. People were like, I don't know. It's just the game is balanced around like a couple broken interactions, and then certain things really fuck with it. I think any percentage health damage is very strong. I think everyone knows that always. I think one thing people constantly fail at evaluating is cooldowns. I think people like look at something like Ornn's W and fail to realize it was on a 9-second cooldown. And it's like, dog, just read it. Just like read the abilities. Like that's what it does. It's fucked up. It's crazy. Like repeatability of this sort of stuff. People were like, why would I ever take Comet? Like when people were reading the new runes, and it's like, because Comet's on like an 8-second cooldown. right?
Yeah.
And like,
And you're
just
constantly just poking them.
right. It's like think about Victor, right? Like a character like Victor, the primary ability that he uses to interact with enemies, unless he's killing you, is longer than the cooldown of comment, right? Like many things like that. I think just in general there seems to be a thing in kind of all online gaming communities where people fail to really think about the realistic use case of something rather than the best or worst use case of it. You know, like and you know, something I'll borrow for any Hearthstone listeners out there. There's a card called Corridor Creeper that everyone missed under the radar, and it's a card that reduces its cost when things die. And I think a phenomenon that I know of is if there is a best use case for something, people actually back off from that. So here's the situation. People were trying to think in their mind with this Corridor Creeper card. They were like, you know, oh, well, I guess you could technically play it on turn 2 for 0, but how often is that going to happen, right? And so because they deemed this best case unrealistic, they then backed off from it altogether. And it's actually like, well, no, you can be a little bit worse than that insane thing you just brought up and still be good, right? And so an example of this is like, you know, when Lucian was updated to get his kind of resetting dash, people were kind of like, well, how many times is he really going to get that off, right? And it's like, well, it turns out he only needs to get it off maybe twice for it to feel crazy, right? Like if he resets his dash one extra time than he did before, it's better than it ever was. Therefore, it is good, right? You know, people are there's just sort of this weird desire to see, like, you know, Aurelian Soul massive one shots, and it's like, nope. Turns out a 2-second stun that can hit a couple members of your team is still broken, right? You know, Aurelian Soul most notably being, I don't know about the last year of releases, but Aurelian Soul at the time I was there was the highest win rate character ever to be put in League of Legends, you know, and just shit like that. So, you know, I think I would really just try to imagine how the situations play out and stop thinking about them in their best or worst cases, because they're usually kind of messing with you, right? And so me,
I do want to expand on that a little bit, because you know what I said earlier might have come off as an indictment against unique champions, which I think is not what I intended. Because some of the best champions in the game are totally unique. I am a huge Thresh main, love Thresh, always have. His versatility is one of the things that I love most about the champion, and I feel like he is in a balanced state and has been forever, right? Particularly after they moved the damage from the Q to the E.
Yeah, I mean, certainly not forever, but yes.
Well, I'm saying for like the last several seasons, even, you know, like for a long time, in terms of like, but you know, that being said, unique champions are great. They just are also unique balance problems, like. Alawi is a great example of a incredibly unique champion that best case scenario is an amazing top end play. Like, oh my God, I hit, you know, a 6-man ult with a soul plus 5 other people and tentacle smash the absolute balls out of an entire team and, you know, crushed. But then like your average use or average case scenario with Alawi is, you know, you're a lane bully and then you struggle to kind of, without CC or something else, make an impact in certain scenarios. Like, she's very niche in her usability, if that makes sense.
She's also broken.
Well, no, and
I'm not exactly understanding what you're trying to say here.
What I'm saying is that's kind of a champion that has very high highs and also can be very difficult. I need to rephrase this question better because I'm kind of all over the place. What I think is you've got a champion who's very strong, in my opinion. I think very strong champion has clear, definitive advantages in laning phase with his incredibly good
strong.
bully,
Okay,
good
strong,
wave clear, excellent presence in a team fight given the correct entry into the team fight. Right, so you have to have a scenario by which you can really like ult and catch people. Which can be difficult to set up, but can happen, and if it does, you get that smash moment, right?
Right.
But in the absence of that moment, it is very difficult to play that champion to the most effective state. So people may feel that Alawi is not as strong as she actually is, and then her pick rate will fall because you never see her in pro play. You know, her weaknesses don't fit with the pro meta, right? But yet,
I mean, apparently she was picked in LCK rather recently. Listen, I don't know if there's going to be a good answer to this question because I think there are a couple statements that aren't exactly lining up for me. Like,
sure,
I mean, one thing is Alawi's pick
off?
rate has absolutely nothing to do with how she plays.
Well, no, sure. I'm just saying, like, as someone who was in the balance department, like you had said, there's a certain morality to, like, you want to see your champion played, like you want to see it picked, and even if you think it's in a good state, but it doesn't receive, attention, that's a bad thing, right? Because you're not delivering on your design aspect you wanted, or that was your words from earlier. Right?
Sure.
So how does that factor in when you think you have a champion that is in a strong state or is a good champion that just never sees play? And how does that impact with, like, the pro scene? Like somebody like Alawi being my example of a unique champion has definite strengths, doesn't see a whole lot of play. Like, I can't think of when the last time I saw an Alawi in game picked was.
Sure. I'm still not hearing a question.
Okay.
Like,
I kind of mashed about 15 questions.
Yeah. I'm gonna need you to make one question.
All right. So,
at least
a champion like Alawi and all the things that I've said previously notwithstanding, right? How do you balance that champion considering that she's, in my opinion, probably in a good state, also incredibly unique, so anything that you do to her is going to kind of shift the scales potentially disproportionately with what she can do versus what an average buff to another champion would be.
I think my issue here is I don't think your description of Alawi makes sense.
Okay, so
when you're saying, like, how do you take a character like that?
Okay, I'll defer. So where do you feel as though I'm off here?
I mean, do you just want me to answer a question about Alawi?
Sure.
Well, it sounds like you're trying to use her as an example for something that I don't know exists.
Okay, so in what ways do you feel
like I'm saying, like, you trying to give you a broad statement about some stuff, or do you want me to, like, answer just a question about Alawi here?
Well, okay, so my question is more intended to be in a general sense, right?
Okay.
It's more of a broad question.
We're getting there.
All right, so in a general sense, you have a champion that does unique things that no one else in League really does. Like, no one feels the same role that she really feels.
So I think another part of what's getting me here is I don't think Alawi is by any means a unique champion. I don't think Alawi fits the same mold as some of the characters we maybe were talking about previously. I think Alawi is actually a very basic champion.
I think a good example would probably be Aurelion Sol, right? Who's interesting. I mean, we talked about he might be, like, strong, right? So yeah. I'm gonna take a stab at this.
Okay, go ahead, man.
Like,
I'm failing to convey my question at all.
All right.
It's probably because I picked a bad champion as my basis for that question, but Aurelion Sol is actually a better fit.
So let's say Aurelion Sol, right? Like, he is in a state, hypothetically, where he's a really strong champion, right?
Okay.
But he doesn't get picked at all, or, like, much at all, and doesn't see pro play aside from Huhi. As a balance team, how would you go about that? Would you try to fix him, or, like, would you try to, like, change things to make him more?
I mean, I think in the case of Aurelion Sol, I mean, you can just look at what Riot did, which was mostly nothing, right? I mean, I think in that case, right, having someone like Huhi that played the character that showed that's like, hey, if you guys just, wanted to be good at this, you could, and then would do well, right? Like, I don't know. I think there's 100 million characters in League of Legends right now. It's unrealistic that every one of them is going to share the amount of spotlight. I think then what it comes down to is your character doing the thing that they say they're going to do, and then second, is the thing that they say they're going to do at all desired or healthy within the game, right? I actually would argue that Aurelion Sol is also not a unique champion, and unique to me in this case, and I think in the way that most people who work on design is talking about unique outputs. There's kind of the idea of unique inputs and unique outputs. Illaoi, though I still think less so than Aurelion Sol, has a unique input, which is the way that I, the player, do the thing, right? And then the output is what is the result, right? And so in case of Aurelion Sol, it's like, okay, sweet, I'm like doing my cool star shenanigans, right? Like I turn real weird, you know, but the result of that is I stun you and then burst you to death, right? Like my result, the end result of having Aurelion Sol in your game is actually not distinct from having a victor in your game, right? And this is why so many balance problems in League of Legends exist around some of the same characters over and over, right? Is that, you know, a character like Victor is one that you will see all the time when he's good and then none of the time when he's not, because he is a character that is defined by his damage output. And if he's doing more than everyone else, then you're going to see him, right? Corki, right? It's like, hey, if Corki's doing a lot of damage right now, then you're going to see him picked more than you're going to see other people. And then if he's not, you're never going to see him because he doesn't bring anything, right? And what League of Legends should be aiming to do is to continue to add characters that do have unique outputs into the game, right? And so Yasuo is an example like this, you know. Windwall, right? The game is functionally different now forever that Yasuo is in it. And you need to play and you need to build your teams accordingly to the fact that this now heretofore unseen thing can exist, right? And so that's kind of the situation here, is that you know, characters like Illaoi, characters like Aurelion Sol, who are actually just big old beat sticks, but have like a little bit, you know, it's like you press this kind of button before you do your thing. You know, Illaoi is just hit a skill shot before you roll your face on the keyboard, and if you can do that, then you're good to go. You know, Aurelion Sol is, you know, wiggle a little bit after you stun him, and then you're good to go, right? Like
and just like chase them. It's literally like just chase them. Hopefully, you have like
Aurelion Sol is a big old glittery Sunfire cape, right? Like it's just. It's like hit the moves that aren't stars and then walk around them a little bit, right? But the output is not that, right? This is something that they've done with Azir, right? Like Azir was this big muddled mess of a bunch of different things, and they ended up taking away his range. And now, okay, what is the effect? What is the net output of having Azir in the game? Functionally, at the highest level, it is you're going to have this dude sweep around and knock you into the enemy team, right? Like they kind of went all in on that being Azir's identity. And so now Azir is a character that you can pick absent of whether or not his damage is the best, right? Or absent of whether his tankiness is the best. I mean, it's these sort of evergreen stats, right? Because you're saying, hey, is this a team that we want someone to be on the other end knocking them towards us? Because sometimes you don't want that. Right? If your team has no tanks and all squishies and you push 5 people into your face, that's not going to go well. You don't want that. Right? That is what League of Legends should be seeking to do, is to come up with more states like that. Like and it's difficult because we've had characters like Poppy that saw competitive play for like a season plus as kind of a dominant laner and a dominant team fighter. But Poppy's ultimate is like, you don't always want Poppy's ultimate on your team. You know, I think part of my issue with Poppy's ultimate when it was really strong was that snapcasting it, just using it as sort of like a delayed, you know, like a quick, they phase out and then they come back in, was actually too strong. If I were still had any sort of relevance, I would fight every day to make Poppy's ultimate unable to be snapcasted. Like you can only cast it at halfway or full length. Gotcha. Like it's always going to displace them in some sense because you don't want that ability to always be good. Right. Like I think that's specifically the mistake. Right. But that's when I talk about Blake, I apologize. I didn't mean to make you feel demeaned or anything.
Oh,
I was
dude,
just.
I do not at all.
Saying that, like,
no, that's
like,
great.
We're talking unique. It's like, you know.
What I intended by unique champion is, I guess Illaoi is more of a case of thematically unique.
Yeah.
But,
Unique,
and I think I also
really different.
Sure, and I think I also may have imposed situationalness as a uniqueness, which is not necessarily how you were considering what I was talking about, right? Yeah. So, like, niche would be more of a proper.
Yes, the future of League of Legends is in making every character niche. That is the future of it, right? You know, I think it's difficult because you need some amount of characters that are evergreen, some amount of characters that always work in some situations, because if you do that, then you make sure that new players always have something to play. You make sure that people who are you know, whose skills lie in you know, not their mechanics but in their, you know, game knowledge and situational awareness always have something to do, right? But it's like they made a bunch of changes to try to make Malphite a little bit more interesting to play, right? And they worked. They added skill into playing Malphite, full stop, right? Whether they added enough for Yasuo X Riven 420, no, but you can't just fall asleep at the wheel. But that's also because they're saying like, hey, they need characters that have strategic value rather than just how much do you press your buttons. And it's actually kind of a problem because I think they designed themselves into a corner, which was, we made characters like Draven and Vayne and Riven that felt really good. But then when you're like, what should these characters do for you in the game? The answer was nothing, right? It was like, Vayne at least has the out of Silverbolts, right? Like Vayne is, hey, we're against a bunch of low reliability health stacking characters, and like Vayne can kind of be the ultimate answer to that. But a character like Draven is like, Draven shouldn't be in League of Legends. Draven doesn't have a purpose. Draven's purpose is better than other AD carries some of the time. There's nothing unique or distinct about Draven. And people are like, but he can get a gold lead. And it's like, that shouldn't be what decides it, right? Like, that's not like a 10-year, that's not a 20-year game, And so
in that case, do you think they failed whenever they took off the bleed effect? Because that was ludicrous strong.
That was not at all unique. That just made Draven better than you all of the time. It was good that they took away the bleed, and people are like,
I just wanted to be 100% clear about that. I think the bleed effect was terrible.
Like, don't pretend like you care about the lore now.
Don't act.
It didn't stop being brothers for the people who actually care.
I love that people like always, when like a champion they like is nerfed, they like try to find something anywhere, and sometimes it's just the lore. It's like, wait a minute, Riot, you lied to us. It's like, wait a minute, buddy. Like, what do you mean? I'm like Draven literally murders everyone in the field. Don't tell me he doesn't have a bleed, right? Like I'm sorry he doesn't literally have a bleed in his mechanics. Like, he's taking a bath in all of your bodies. It's fucking crazy. So actually, I do have a quick question, because you said that like ideally you'd want every character.
I'm just warning you. After 15 more minutes, you all have to sub to get me to answer these questions.
Yeah, of course.
You are on a timer here.
Yeah. But do you think like, I mean, you even said so earlier, like there's so many champions already on League. Do you think like there's going to be a cap, or is it just going to be like at some point they retire champions? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't think they'll ever retire champions. I think there certainly will be a cap. They don't know when it is. I certainly don't know when it is. But I think it's foolish to assume that there won't be one eventually, right? Like that's kind of the situation as it is, right? Is like people can remember a lot of different characters. They can hold a lot of different things in their head. We haven't hit that, I still say we, they have not hit that point yet in their lives. But when they will, they'll find a way about it. I think there's also kind of a thing. I mean, you may have noticed there's a lot more reworks, like a lot more significant reworks that are happening, and a lot less characters. I don't know how many characters they will have come out with this year. I don't know how many they did last year, but I don't think it was that many.
3, 4.
It was more than 3. What it was
Ornn, Kayn, Zoe, Xayah, and Rakan. So
yeah.
5.
So yeah, it might have been those 5. Actually, there may have been one more that we're not thinking about. But in general, right, it's like that was also a year that like Urgot came out, Warwick came out, Galio as well towards the beginning of the year.
Sion in that, or
no, Sion came out in 2014, my dude.
God, no, wow, really?
Yep.
It's been that long?
Actually, yes. Yep.
God.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave you with that and get back to this question.
All right.
Sit with that feeling. If you really want to feel old, Yasuo came out in 2013. So, there you go.
What?
Anyways, Yorick. People are saying Yorick and Evelyn also came out last year.
Yep.
People in the chat. So those are examples of characters that are like, those characters for many people didn't exist, and so having an update like that feels like a new character, right? Like, you know, they want to say like, oh, there's 130 characters, but they're not really. Like, Nunu isn't a real character. You know, like it doesn't matter whether or not he's like functional or you can use him, but like when you look at shit like Zion, Rakan, and Kayn, Nunu is not a real champion in League of Legends, right? And so one day they will eventually do it. But then it's interesting, like they've talked about Aurelia, right? Aurelia isn't a real character in League of Legends, right? When you look at Fiora, when you look at like what Fiora used to be and what Fiora became, right? It was like, wow, they really turned that character into something awesome, you know? And that's kind of their idea with Aurelia is like, how do we make this like, you know, the queen mother of stat sticks into something that actually seems and looks really awesome. And so they'll probably do something. Heimerdinger was a character that was like technically on the roster and you could pick him, but then eventually got turned into something that exists. So you know, it's like people are like, how many characters can even add? And I'm like, they haven't even gone through fixing their own roster. Right. So it'll certainly be quite a long time until that happens.
Okay, so I touched on this earlier, and I would love to hear from you as someone who did have, you know, very heavy hand in the balance department for a while in terms of influence, right?
Sure.
What is your opinion of Zoe? Because I know everybody came down on. I think
Zoe is good, and everyone who complains about her is a crybaby.
Blake.
Well, what? Look. Well, okay. So
no.
Specifically, like maybe back honestly, that up a little bit. It would be great.
Like the best thing about Zoe is that for such a long time, like the majority of people who play League of Legends are just like 18 to 24 age dudes. And it's like, you know, people's idea of like what a trickster is, you know, they're like Fizz, he's like a little hopping on his pole or whatever. But it's like the actual thing that you want if you want a trickster character is this like she looks like she's 11, she looks like an LL Bean like backpack, right? Like and she's the person talking shit at you. If you really want to make like all of Reddit actually mad, that's the character you make. And they did, and I love it. I love like, that's the annoying character.
I love the ult interaction where she just goes, like,
oh yeah, no, it's awesome. Riot Games made a character to piss off the majority of its players, and they totally did, and it's so, right? And like anyone who's like, I hate Zoe, it's like, good, she's working, she's doing it.
Well, no, right? It's more of like from a balance point of view. Like, what do you?
No. I mean, no, even from a balance point of view, right? It's like I don't know, man. She's a better version of characters like Fizz in terms of like she has a strategic niche that she can execute on and like can healthily live within the game. You know.
Well, okay. So I guess let me pose it a different direction.
All right, what's that?
Riot has changed LeBlanc like 3,000 times.
Yeah, LeBlanc sucks.
Yeah, because of, you know, problematic kit and, you know.
Yeah, LeBlanc has always been a bad idea.
Right. So, in the same sense, well, I guess Syndra would also be kind of a, you know, I got a boom button, right? And Syndra has a boom button that's at least gated on the fact that it's an ultimate. Zoe has that on an E, followed by, you know, another not too long cooldown ability.
Sure.
But then again, she also has no ultimate, realistically, in terms of damage output.
Yeah.
Right? How do you balance that kind of a boom on, you know, a low cooldown? Like, how does that... I'm not saying okay. Whenever I say how do you balance, I don't mean that to be an accusation. I mean, how does one go about balancing that part of a kit with a power budget and then still include things like Spell Thief effectively? How do you make that a coherent champion and put all those pieces together? And do you feel like they've hit that mark?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think... Don't ask me. Ask Bradford Wenban, certainly T, because he did it. He made it. He made a balanced character that has some really high highs and has some pretty clearly defined weaknesses. Like, don't get hit by her stuff, right? I'm not going to act like it's always that easy, but that's it, right? Like how much more fair can you get that? You've Dark Souls fans frothing at the mouth when people say that their game is unfair because technically everything has an animation and you can roll out of it, right? Like. Zoe is the character, right? Like yeah, sure, it feels like shit when you get hit by the sleep because you know you're about to get one shot, but also like don't get hit by the sleep next time, well, right? Sure, or like buy an ability, you know, get a QSS, you know, cleanse.
but then like same concept. Why then LeBlanc unhealthy, Zoe healthy?
Zoe has skill shots. LeBlanc has point and click spells.
Yeah, I was gonna say because like especially like in the case of Zoe, the way I've seen it, it's like if you don't have any solid like understanding of the champion, you're just not gonna do anything.
Also,
You know,
I mean,
like,
I
unless
think
you
there's
like learn
I
it.
think there's a couple more nuanced bits to this as well, right? Like I think LeBlanc kind of gets to do a little bit of everything. She can escape if she wants. She can engage if she wants, right? She can kite you by like spamming the chains, and they can do that long enough. Like Zoe literally has one thing that she does, right?
Right.
And it's fish for picks and then follow up on them, right? That's it. That's all of it. And she has to be good at that. But like for instance, if you engage on Zoe, she's dead every time, right? She cannot escape you. The worst you can do is like jump 400 units to the left and then come right back, right? Where if that were a character like LeBlanc, it's like consider that LeBlanc has like maybe 20% less damage than Zoe, or some percentage less damage than Zoe, but has better everything else.
Yeah.
Right. Like that character actually blinks more times in a 30-second window than Zoe ever will. And that is if everybody uses their flashes. So like
I'm just trying to think of like other comparable characters that have like that blow up button. Right.
And I'm saying
that would be
I'm trying to tell you that taking that and simplifying it to a blow up button rather than the context in which these characters succeed is detrimental to the argument.
Sure, I understand this. That's what I'm trying to devil's advocate this out a little bit, and also increase my own understanding of Zoe in particular. Right?
Yeah. No, I mean, Zoe's a frustrating character that punishes you very hard for not doing the thing that you're supposed to do against her. And so, like, yeah, it feels super bad to get murdered by Zoe. But literally every time it happens, there was something that you could have done. Where technically speaking, if we look at some other assassins in the past, there are some times where you could not have done anything.
Rancor.
Right? Well, it's like old LeBlanc QRQ, right? It's at that point, it's like, hey, don't exist on the map, right? Like don't have been at this point in time where you are,
don't leave the fountain.
it's like, sorry, you should have built tank as an AD carry, right? Like that technically is the case, right?
Or my favorite one is against like LeBlanc's just dodge. It's the easiest thing to do, just dodge the game, like obviously.
Yeah. Dodge the game select. There's some stuff like that, and there's been all sorts of different versions like this. Like there was times in Fizz's balance past where he didn't have to land the shark, and he would miss the shark and then would just WQ you, and you're just done, right? Like that's the thing. Talon as well. Like I love Talon a lot, but there have been times where it's like just dash to him and press your button and you're dead, right? So the idea is that if League of Legends wants to continue having assassin characters into its game, it needs to have characters like Zoe that have these ridiculously high highs that you feel like you earned or that the opponent could have played around. Like look, for every complaint that a character like Syndra gets whenever she presses R on someone, like Zoe exists because of that character. Zoe exists because the game still needs to have characters that assassinate / pick people off, but you clearly don't want it that way. So it's like they got to have it some other way, and that's the way that they.
So I guess let me go full circle on this thing, okay?
Sure. Hit me.
You have other champions that do the exact same thing. You have like Lux, Annie, Syndra, like all these are boom champions.
None of those three characters are remotely similar to me.
Like, okay,
Lux
you land the binding.
Zoe, Lux, Syndra, and Annie are not similar.
Okay, I'm thinking of it in this way. You hit your skill shot, whatever it is, you're binding, right, with Lux, and then you follow it up with auto attack E, auto ult, boom, or auto attack E, ult, boom, right? You have Annie, it's drop a bear, hit all your buttons, they die. You have Syndra, who's you hit, Q stun, ult, or Q stun W ult, whatever.
Sure.
Right? All these champions have that same kind of pattern where the weakness is to dodge. Like you have to dodge their ability or to play an appropriate space from their zone and things like that, right?
Right.
What makes Zoe different than those champions? Because I don't see a whole lot of difference there in terms of her playability. Because with Lux, you have a low cooldown ult that is essentially up whenever you really
so
need
like
it anyway.
so like I think this is what I'm saying. Like you're just thinking in sense that like these characters have damage abilities and they can be put together in a combo, right? And I'm saying that you got to start thinking like, okay, Lux can bind two people / like Lux can kill an entire team, right, from far away, right? Annie can kill an entire team from close up. Syndra can kill one person like from medium range, right? Zoe can kill one person from extreme range, right? Like these are not the same things. The closest that exists is, in my mind, Lux, because they both operate at sort of a long range and they have sort of a catch pattern. The situation here that is different is that Lux is a character that operates at long distance, right? And tries to burst people. Zoe's pick tool actually goes even further, such that it's less that, if I can explain this, it's less that your team needs to be built around Lux's ability to catch things off or to do stuff from long range, but rather that the inherent long range in something like Zoe's bubble allow her to be omnipresent in skirmishes, right? And so teams that have a Zoe on it versus a Lux actually play in very different ways, right? When Lux was seeing competitive play, the thing that she did was just literally sit mid lane and wave clear with her E at certain breakpoints and then hit points where other people were able to stun a target, and then she lasered them off the map. And that was what you did, right? The output of having Lux in your game was that you could kill anyone from long range, right? The output of having a Zoe in your game is that if you have a bunch of different duelists or people that skirmish, she can just sort of walk up and throw bubbles that gain the increased distance through terrain and can effectively help out in a lot of smaller fights, right? Like, and so that's what I'm saying is it's like, yes, if we just start comparing everyone by the damage output that they do, like it's going to be pretty hard to like come up with satisfying comparisons. But when you compare like what the games are like and the situations that occur when the characters are in the game, I think you come to realize that they're actually quite different. I think characters and I think characters that do have extreme similarities are ones like Diana and Akali, where like the things that they do aren't meaningfully different from one another. In this case, it's like they've tried to nudge it. Like Akali can now go over walls. Right, so like Akali can actually kind of join from maybe a different angle than before, but and Diana has a little more AOE, but generally speaking, it's like you just kind of run at him. You run at him and you deal and you do the damage.
I hit him with one ability. I do a dash. I do a bunch of damage. I try to do like that.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's like by itself, I don't think that is not a thing. Like because you have a character like Akali in the game, you inherently counter characters like Zoe, LeBlanc, Ahri, right? Like it may be sometimes these characters have the issue in that being able to cover that much distance actually means you operate just fine within a short distance, right? And so there's some sort of overlap there. But a character like Akali or Diana says that, Diana's a little healthier because she has to kind of actually hit a skill shot to keep the chain going, but hers is indefinite, where Akali's always caps out. So there's kind of a trade-off there on a low level. But the idea is that while those characters exist, you cannot have a prominent squishy character that is very, very mobile. Ever be too big a problem in the game. You can never have a character that goes too far because they go that far and they kill that person. So if you're ever having troubles with an Ahri in your meta, just or like an Ezreal or something, was like he can flash and go over the wall with his E. It's like, okay, cool, pick Akali, chase his ass down. You +1 that person while killing them.
Sure.
Okay. Speaking of Akali, the true invisibility that's kind of been entered into the game with the invisibility rework, do you think that posed a balance problem? Is it okay? Was that a good idea? Like, how do you look at that?
No, I mean I think it was fine, right? Like I think they were kind of in a situation for a long time where champions that use stealth were hard countered by an ability by an item no one wanted to buy, and so if you bought it, they weren't very good, and then if you didn't buy it, they were very, very good, right? And so this sort of ability is kind of a halfway point that says a couple characters get to be straight up invisible, but in situations that are like not super invisible, right? Like if Akali is, if you can't see her, guess what? She's in that circle, right? Hit the circle. Start throwing bows in the circle. You're gonna hit something, and then we're gonna let you know that you hit it, and then you're gonna keep hitting it. right? Like that, like that's sort of a way to work. If you can't see Teemo, and he's in a bush, it's basically that thing that people were already doing against Teemo, right? They would just start throwing skill shots until they heard a sound, right? But now there's at least a little shimmer, so it's actually a little better, right? I don't think it's perfect. I think there's no real MOBA in my mind that has managed to figure out how the fuck to do stealth very well. But no, I mean, I don't know. They did it a couple years ago. Seems like it worked out.
Well, I mean, follow-up question, because you kind of had an indictment there against like items that counter directly something that somebody does. Like pink ward is more offending, I think, because it was so inexpensive. 75 gold or whatever, 150 gold at the time, I guess, to counter somebody's ability to do things is a little much. But I mean, those items still exist in the game, and like Executioner's Calling or Bramble's Vest and things like that. Any kind of health regen champion, like your shtick is shot at that point. What are your opinions on that? Is that, a problem, or is it less of a problem because you have to complete like at least a half item?
I mean, you answered it right there, right? Like a lot of these items exist in the game, and they're not very good in their own, but they have to exist because the sorts of things that they counter will be kind of allowed to go kind of haywire, without it. I think there's a thing where it's like, pink wards. Do pink wards exist anymore?
No,
it's control wards now.
Control wards, but they don't reveal stealth.
Yeah, they don't reveal stealth anymore, right? I'm trying to remember because normal wards don't exist anymore. It's just control wards.
Correct.
That's the deal, right? I'm just saying that like in back in the day, pink wards were an item that people always wanted to buy, right? Like you naturally always wanted them, and so the actual cost of having a pink ward in your inventory was low because if you didn't interact with a stealth champion, you just put it in a bush and then you murdered their vision and you got control of the map, right? If you did keep it, you could do it. And guess what? You used to be able to hold 2 in your inventory, so you could actually just do that. You could actually just go place it where you wanted to place it and then have it to counter this thing. It also cost 100 gold, right? Like, there's a big difference in saying, hey, I buy 800 gold in lane against a Vladimir to counter his healing, but then also now I'm Yorick with like a fucking 25 AD item I'm never going to build into anything, right? Like, like that's actually way more meaningful than people think. Right.
Like a consumable is particularly egregious. That's what I was trying to say. It's bad if you just buy a consumable, but having to itemize is okay.
And so like the worst example of this, or as bad as it gets, to be honest with you, is what is it? Morellonomicon. A lot of people like to make that the complaint because they're like, mages aren't giving up anything to build Morellonomicon. But it's also like, hey, mages should be able to kill you when you're at low health, right? Like that's actually less now these days about like an item countering a playstyle and more like the people who buy that item should inherently be good against this playstyle, or should inherently have this advantage because otherwise they will never do it, right? Like, what 80 carries can beat drain tanks if they are able to deal more damage than the person can do, right? Burst mages can literally never beat a drain tank. Without having something like Grievous Wounds available, right? Because unless you just do it 100 to 0, then the person is in the rotation of your cooldowns going to regenerate the entirety of their health. And so something like Morellonomicon existing, where you are able to sort of do that first round, and then now they are unable to fully access their healing, kind of opens a window for you to be able to do stuff. So
cool. All right. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. The episode's gone really, really long. Sorry about that, Scarizard, but it's been
good, man.
It's been a real pleasure having you on. Is there any? Can you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yeah, dog. Google Scarizard. Literally Google it. No, sure. Scarizard plays on Twitter. Scarizard plays on Twitch. We talked a little bit earlier about the fitness thing that I'm doing, and I highly recommend all of you joining that, especially all of you here. But yeah, literally just come follow my stream. I talk with everybody. My community is, like I said, the best online. It just is a truth. If you don't believe me, come by. People are like confused and then upset at how nice we are and how good it actually is. I was playing Darkest Dungeon. This guy came in and I like talked to him, and he like now has been sticking around. He's been a sub for like a couple months now. And he was like, "That's fucked up. That's weird. You guys aren't being rude." I'm like, yeah, we're not.
Yeah, I came in
Not
here to
really.
hate on you and say racist shit, and you guys were so nice. I just stuck around, you know.
Yeah, no, I mean, you would be surprised how much that happens. So yeah, so do all that shit. If you have the ability or the desire to subscribe to my channel, I have like 800 billion emote slots that we're working on getting fixed, so that you'll be able to spam a whole bunch of cool shit, and they're all going to be high quality. So yeah, that's how you do it. I stream about to be 60 days in a row, but usually I stream every day from noon to 6 Pacific.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
All right.
Good,
Hey
good
man, I'll
luck with
tell you
that
this.
endeavor.
I saw on your Twitter, you said, or on your Twitch, you said if you want to do a duo stream sometime, I would totally be into doing that. Let's put it on the calendar.
yeah, man. Whenever I probably won't do it for the 60-day thing because I'm gonna have some pretty specific stuff that I'm doing for that. But whenever I desire to play League of Legends again, which will probably be in like, I don't know, 6 months or something, holler at me.
Sure,
Let me
man,
know.
no problem.
We'll play some League of.
I will hit you up. You just let
All
me
right.
know whenever that point in time rolls around for you.
You got it, man.
If
Thanks.
you ever want to hang out with the support main, I am down.
Got it.
So
All right, cool.
All right.
what was the heights of diamond you got there?
What, like ever? One?
Yeah, no, I mean like where are you at right now? If you
Oh
were
god,
to-
where am I at right now, dude? I don't know. I like I said, I haven't played League of Legends in like 3 months. I haven't played League of Legends since the new season dropped. I played like a couple days of games. Yeah,
That's fair.
no. I mean, it's like I don't. It's not my job anymore. I got other stuff to do,
Yeah, sure.
right? I've
Right.
I've played that game
Understandable.
since 2010, so like I've earned rest. I can stop playing. 2009, right?
All right, I feel like I have to ask you this question because I said I was going to earlier. What is your
Okay.
tip for climbing in League of Legends? What do you think is the single most important factor to somebody who's like, let's say they're bronze or silver and they want to climb up? What do you think?
Literally, stop blaming other people. Actually, just stop. I don't care what it is. Cut that shit out. It is the number one thing that is getting in your way, right? Like, yes, that person also fed, but also you didn't do well enough, right?
Mhm.
Like, that's just the way it is. You know, if you adapt that mindset, like, yes, there still are like some percentage of games I've had them where I was like, man, I probably played to the best of my absolute limits, and I think that person probably played to the worst of theirs, and the way the matchups were and the way the positions were, it just, you know, it made it unwinnable. But if you at least think of it from the what are the things I can do or should be doing, you're going to win more games in the long run, right? You can't be viewing League of Legends like this roulette where you just sort of are like, did I get the good team this time? Did I get the bad team this time, right? You got to be like, okay, sweet. How am I going to win this game? And if you stop asking yourself that question, then you're never going to climb, and you're going to become salty, and you're going to become angry, and you're going to stop playing, and it's going to feel bad. So stop doing that.
Awesome. Thank you so
Cool.
much.
Yeah, thanks. So that is it for episode 174 of the LOLA podcast. We'll see you guys next week.
Good night, everybody!
Bye.
Goodbye.
All right, cool. Yeah, thanks again, Scarizard. This was real fun.
Yeah,
Dude,
man.
Sorry about
I
long.
very much enjoyed the hell out of that. That was super
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, you can, if you want to continue talking with me, you can literally find me 30 to 40 hours a week live. I'm not hiding. You can at any moment come and have this conversation again live.
I like it.
All right. Well, I have to head out. I'm sorry. I got things to take care of. But again, it was a pleasure, Scarizard. I'll tag you and let you know when this goes live. And then, yeah, thanks again, man.
Your thing. All right, later, y'all.
Yeah, see you
Bye.
later.
Bye.